Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Behind the Camera with Charisse Glenn and Joshua Rappaport, only on LA Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Josh Rappaport here with Charisse Glenn behind the camera, and we have a fabulous guest with us today, the lovely, talented, and famous Judy Kain, who is the proprietress of Keep It Real Acting here in the Valley. She's been a professional actress for a long time and has been teaching for quite some time as well. How long have you been teaching for, actually?
It's over 20 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That you've had Keep It Real?
No, not that I've had Keep It Real, but that I've been teaching.
When did Keep It Real come into it?
Keep It Real's been in its current formation for 8 years.
And
Keep It Real is where?
Keep It Real Acting Studios is 4444 Lankershim Boulevard,
Okay,
right where
so
the
that
Coffee
one-
Bean is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so close by.
Mm-hmm.
and you've won
centrally
all kinds of
located.
awards for Keep It Real. You
I
had, like,
have.
the
I've
Drama
won
Log Award. Or,
The Backstage, yes, many years in a row. I don't think they do that award anymore. But yes, as commercial classes, acting coach, kids classes. Paul Hungerford won for improv.
Paul Hungerford is wonderful.
Yes, he is.
We love Paul.
Easy to
We
say.
love Paul. I have great teachers.
No,
Great.
it's not easy to say.
And are your classes all ongoing, or you sign up and they?
It's
run
different.
for-
There are a couple of theatrical ongoing classes with Stacey Edwards, who's amazing, and Meisner based. And then there's the rest of the classes are either 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 4 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you do privates?
I do privates and I tape
Okay.
all day long.
Are you,
Tape,
you doing
self-tape.
self-tapes? What do you think about the latest trend?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Well, it is what it is. It's happening, and it's probably going to be. I mean, I knew this was going to be the trend 8 years ago.
Really?
I did. I knew it was going to happen more and more.
And do you think
more.
it'll come to commercials?
It is coming to
It
commercials.
is. Come on, it is.
I'm doing.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm doing. I would say 4 to 5 commercials a week. taping.
Really?
Yeah.
And don't you think
See-
it's a disadvantage to the actors?
Oh, it's. Oh my
Right.
gosh! It's so hard.
right.
Well, I think it's a little bit easier if you come in to, and get some eyes on you and a little bit of coaching, which is what I try to do while I'm taping.
Rather than just doing a selfie at home.
Oh, God, no.
Well-
or with your husband who has no idea how to read the lines or frame it, or the volume is off because you're picking up the reader, not the.
Oh my gosh, I did it was a callback for a spot that I had cast last week, and the favorite couldn't make it in. He was on set, and he said, I've got an hour for lunch, I can do it then. We said, great. We fit him in when we could. It was all video conferenced anyway. His shot, there was half of him was missing.
Oh, boy.
So it looked like he was a midget. And then when I wanted a full body, he walked backwards, which was fine. I saw him, but then we couldn't see him when he was doing the dialogue. So he moved back in, and I'm talking half of it was
Yeah.
he lost the job.
Yeah.
He absolutely lost the job because it wasn't. It couldn't show people
well, you
what we
can't
needed.
imagine. No, and I think that's the difficult thing too. Is you go in the room. I mean, I do at least. There's an energy that happens when you're with the clients, or even just the session director. There's a relationship that happens that comes alive through the tape.
Well, the other thing when you're in the room with somebody who's seen X number of people do it before you,
Right.
and so on, they have insight to it that you can never pick up
Absolutely.
on. That's why I find it fascinating that it's coming to commercials, because commercials are so regimented. We have such specific direction and such specific tasks.
well, they have specific direction for theatrical as well.
I agree, but theatrical also is most of the time a very tight head and shoulders shot, because you're shooting it in close up, which is how it's going to be shot anyway. So you have complex directions in terms of what you're trying to do, but not necessarily physicality.
Right.
In a theatrical audition, if you're in a fight with somebody or you're reading something or you're not really doing that.
Right.
Whereas in a commercial, we always,
Yeah.
we love props for
Sure.
the audition.
No,
We try
absolutely.
and give you that real sensation of what you're doing.
Right.
And so,
Well, I try to do that myself.
Right.
With the commercial taping or the theatrical taping is even if they don't see it, I have a little setup so that at least they can engage in some
Right.
real activity, which will help ground them again, give them a better performance.
And this is one of the questions we were talking. What do you think is the difference between commercial acting and theatrical acting?
There really isn't a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, how I teach it as an acting class. I mean, the difference is you don't have really any backstory
Right.
on a commercial. You have to come up with that. You have to come up with your relationship and your characters.
Right.
It's not given to you. It's not provided. It's not in season 1.
Well, you are providing it. There's no first,
Exactly.
second, or third act. You're it.
You're it.
You have to experience that fully
Yes.
as you walk in the door.
Fully, and it's pretty. I always say you have to be ready to just expose yourself instantly.
Right.
You have to show who you are with the slate.
Yes.
Weren't we just talking about this? That was one of my questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Was what is the most important thing you bring into the room as an actor for a commercial? And my thing
Me
was
personally, or
this was
as
a
an
question,
actor?
and I would say it's your slate.
Slates. I think it's personality, which has to come forth in everything that you do. Your point of view and your personality, because everybody is unique. I think the actor's problem is they're constantly trying to figure out what do they want,
Right.
and
You
you can't.
you can't figure out what they want. They often don't know what they want
No.
until you come in and show them what
Yeah.
they want.
Yes.
You were always so great, and still are in your acting, in that you always brought in a complete character. You were never just Judy there. You were Judy as,
Right.
whatever that character was.
Well, you also had relationship. You brought in relationship when you came into the room.
And because I'm an actress, because I look at it as an acting job, and I think that's what I loved about doing commercials, and still love about doing commercials, is it's a little mini movie in 30 seconds. It's a little mini
Right.
movie. It's an opportunity to act, and it's obviously very profitable and
Can
fun
be.
to shoot. It can be really
Can
fun
be,
to shoot.
yeah.
Especially those glove commercials.
Oh my God! Oh yes, yes.
Inside joke.
Yes.
So
You
let
still
me
have that conflict?
I do not have it anymore. I have been released.
Um,
let me ask you this. So I've been talking to some new actors, and one person said, acting for commercials takes no skill.
Ugh.
It is just a toss-up. It's just a crapshoot.
No.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
you know that.
Yes,
and
I know that.
I
but
know that.
You tell me what kind of skills you need as a
well,
commercial actor.
Well, I'll tell you, because I teach, and I teach a beginning class, I teach an intermediate commercial class, and I teach an advanced commercial class. And when the people come in the beginning class, you can immediately tell who's got some training. Instantly, you can tell. One, they can deliver a line. They can lift it off the page. Most people come in and just read it off the board. I always say, if they were looking for the person who got all the words right, you would get the job. But that's not what they're looking for. They
Right.
need you to lift it off the page as if it was happening right now in your life. So that requires, knowing who you are, where you are, who you're talking to, what do you want, and what's happening around you so that you can engage. And how do you feel about it? All these things are, I learned from Uta Hagen. It's
Oh
the
my gosh, yes.
same.
Mhm.
It's the same technique.
Mhm.
It's just compressed in a very short period of time. You go from, the beginning, the middle, the end in 30 seconds.
Or less.
Or less.
yeah, now commercials are 15 seconds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
You
Yeah.
know? So you're telling
So
the whole
okay,
story.
so lifting the words off the page.
Yeah.
Great. What's another skill that actors need when they're
Yeah, what's
just
your
starting.
first bit of advice?
Here's I studied with Carolyn Berry. She was my commercial teacher years and years ago. And she always said, you have to know who you are in commercials. You have to know who you are. You can't be everything. You just can't. You can't play all the roles, which of course I wanted to.
I was just going to ask you, how long did it take you to figure out what your role was?
Not that long. And I'm really grateful for that, because you can spin your wheels and spin your wheels.
Right.
But I was always, I just always had a little bit of an edge to me. So, and comedy for sure. So I knew I was, it was really even hard for me to do my husband's shirts just won't get clean. Those were very hard for me to
Right.
do. So, but I could always be a little bitter and judgmental about the person who had the clean sheets
Right.
or the clean shirts for her husband. So I learned early on that I was definitely the brand X girl. I was the one who didn't have the product.
And was that you coming up with it on your own, or did your teacher help you define what your brand was?
I think Carolyn was instrumental in helping me see that I had that comedic twist, and that I could use that in commercials, and then just seeing commercials and seeing that there were all these different types. I mean, back in the day, I mean, we're going back 40 years now, when commercials were happening. It was very Midwest, and almost most of the roles were going to the,
Yeah,
the
peaches
sort of
and cream, blonde hair, blue-eyed.
PG,
P&G.
PG.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't really fit that. At that time, I had really dark hair. I was considered ethnic.
Because they probably thought you were Jewish,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
When my mother was casting, she was a casting director for over 30 years. Jewish was an ethnicity.
It
Now
was.
it's not.
No, it's
But
not at
it
all.
was specifically then.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, so things have changed quite a
Right.
bit.
yeah. So I had to, I
Tone
had to
it
go
down?
red. I had to
Oh, interesting.
make my hair red.
And
And
commercials.
take out your New York,
Yes.
which you
Well, I don't. I mean,
know.
I don't know why I sound like a New Yorker. I really don't. But I've only been there 4 times in my life,
funny.
so I don't
it's an
know
attitude
why.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've always had that
Yeah.
sort of sense of East Coast sensibility about
Yes.
you. A big city as opposed to.
Which probably works for you in Los Angeles, because when we're casting, sometimes we need that very wide range, and we don't have to fly to New York to cast.
Right.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. I play, but I would say the majority of my roles have been some sort of Midwest or Middle America, or
Well, you're always
middle class.
the
gal.
wise ass. You're
The
always
wise
you're
ass,
you
yes.
know you're always the
Yes.
persnickety one. the
Yes, judgmental. Yeah.
Judgmental. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you had said it earlier. You were the anti.
Mm-hmm. Always. Yeah.
And you draw upon your life to bring that character to
Yeah, it's not too much of a stretch.
So in your class, do you help your students figure out who they are?
We actually have a branding class. It's actually happening today. It's called the Caspel Actor. My dear Tom Burke, he's an amazing. He's just got an amazing eye. So yes, he helps people find their type, their brand, their marketability, and what kind of roles they should be submitting for.
Consequently, what kind
Yeah.
of headshots they should get.
Oh yeah, in preparation for the headshot. And then next week we co-teach Really You're Wearing That, which is a class about finding the right outfits,
Oh, that's smart.
wardrobe, costumes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on
Mhm.
wardrobe?
It's critical.
Critical.
Oh, it's critical. One, for the actor, I mean, you put something on, you immediately feel that character.
Well, Olivier used to make his whole character based on what he was wearing.
Right, and the shoes.
The shoes,
Yeah.
Shoes
the
are-
glasses,
Yeah,
the hat.
absolutely. It
whatever it
affects
is.
you.
Yeah.
It definitely affects you. But, I'm sorry, I don't think that the advertisers and especially the clients can really use their imagination
No, they don't.
to see you
We-
in a
We've
We
talked
both
about
had, I remember having to call somebody back for a third call so they could put glasses on them.
yeah.
I had a blue pinstripe suit. He was wearing a gray pinstripe suit, but
Wow.
he had to come in with the blue one.
Yeah.
Crazy.
No,
Yeah,
but it is the way
Mhm,
it is. So,
mhm.
there's a certain amount of, to me, acceptance. You have to accept these are the parameters for the career that I've chosen.
Right.
I need to know exactly what kind of a costume to wear to this audition.
So do you have your commercial clothes
Oh,
and
yeah.
your
You have
And your
audition
Judy
clothes.
clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I have my Judy clothes, which are not my audition clothes.
Right.
And then I have my my audition outfits, and I change. Usually I change in the car or I change there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely do, and they've changed over the years. You know, I'm not a mom anymore. I play grandma now.
Do you
so.
have your clothes? Because when I used to do it,
Mhm.
I had certain clothes. I knew this. This was my
Absolutely.
mom.
Yes.
This was my
Yes, it makes it
athletic
so
girl. This is,
easy.
yeah, you didn't have to think about it.
No, you don't
Yeah.
have to think
No,
about it.
I
at all.
always say there's enough anxiety going along with the idea that you have an audition. You don't want to be standing in front of your closet going, "What am I going to wear?"
Yeah, or
You
or
know.
not having it.
Right.
You know, not having that outfit. You
Right.
know, and having to go find it at the last minute or call a friend for it. Oh my God, how stressful.
Yeah.
Scrubs.
Yeah.
Scrubs.
Scrubs.
$7. You
Yeah.
can get a pair of scrubs.
Well, I
you
mean,
know?
thrift stores are my best friend,
Mhm.
and Marshalls. I'll do a plug for Marshalls. Marshalls is great.
You getting a tie-in with that?
Or are you the one that buys it, tucks in the label, and returns it?
I have done that. I have done that.
I think everybody's done
Yeah.
that at least once.
They've
Maybe not
gotten
you.
very savvy though. If you've
Yeah.
noticed, the labels are now under the armpit on the outside, so you can't.
You've put some research into it. Okay, I get it.
Mhm.
And how was it for you when you had to transition from character to character to character, when you had to mature as, I mean, were you aware of it, that you had to change your
Yes.
approach,
very
or was
aware.
it so you were always constantly?
Yes, I think you have to look to the 5 years ahead of you rather than the 5 years behind. I think that's another mistake that actors make. That's tragic. Is they cling to be in their 30s, or they
Right.
cling to their 40s, and they would be working a lot more if they would just accept they're in their 50s and embrace it and go for it. I will say this transition that I'm in right now is the most difficult
Right.
because I'm not quite 70. Well, I'm not 70, but I'm not quite there, even though I will go up for it. But
Well, you're still too young to play.
Yeah, you
still
have a very youthful.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
And you have a youthful spirit, not
I-
just how you look, but
Right.
you're.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I've got a gray wig. I've got two of them actually. So I'll be donning those for auditions.
Have they worked for you yet?
Yes. Actually had one, which I think is a funny story. I had one. I wore it to the audition. Did a great audition. I think the client or somebody came out afterwards, and they were looking at my hair, and they said,
Did you
what-
take it
yeah.
off and say, "Here, you want a
wanna
closer
see it?"
look?"
They were like, "We were just thinking of putting a wig on you." Now I had a wig on, and of course, had I just said, "Oh, great," I probably would have booked that job. But no, here was my Reese Witherspoon. I said, "Well, this is a wig," and of course, the job went away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you come in prepared and exactly as they want you to be,
Yeah.
and then they find out that you've doctored yourself.
You've
They don't want to
doctored
do it,
yourself.
So you're
but
not
they're going to
real.
but they're going to doctor you anyway.
Anyway,
yeah,
I
no,
know.
it's completely
Yeah,
confusing.
we want to doctor you. We don't want you to doctor
right,
yourself. Yeah.
right. So do you have headshots with the wigs?
I do. Yeah. My agents are not really on board with that phase yet. They still want to, submit me 50s, late 50s.
Judy, I think you should go for it. It's for
Yeah.
me. It's the one area that's very difficult to find now with
Yeah.
women
Mm-hmm.
our age or older that have gray hair that
Right.
can act,
Right.
And that are willing to be gray.
and that are willing
Not
to.
that I know that you are gray.
Yeah.
I don't know if you are.
but are
actually
willing
gray.
to express themselves that
Right.
way, and it's very difficult.
Interesting.
It's very difficult because a lot of women still they don't want to show
Right.
the truth because most of us
Well-
were. I mean, I'm gray now, but I was not gray for a long time, and I was hiding it. And the day that I decided not to hide it, things changed, and it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. So I think actors have that difficulty making
Yes.
that transition, but I think you'd work all the time.
Yeah,
Seriously, I think
yeah.
it would be really good for you to at least
Well, that's why I got
put
the
that wig on,
but-
get some headshots,
Oh
and
no,
tell
I
your
have
agents
headshots
to,
with the wig. Yeah.
tell your agents
And-
to post you on
submitting,
LA
yeah.
casting.
And I know you have a theatrical career going
Yes,
as well.
very successful.
Exactly. And do you think the wig is that the right transition for theatrical?
They've not submitted me with it, and I always
Right.
ask, should I wear the wig? Should I wear? No, we didn't submit you. A lot of times they want older women, but not gray-haired women.
Well,
so
because you play power.
yeah,
You play the attorney, you play
Right.
the judge, you play
Right.
those things that are powerful positions.
Right.
So your youth, your hair still being its color
Right.
and everything. I can understand that. That's why I don't know that the wig would necessarily work in the theatrical, whereas in commercial, you get that instant read of, oh, she's a
Right.
grandma. Or
And it's
we
a
Right.
understand it.
character. I mean, it's an instant
Right.
character.
Right.
Right.
Do you think that the gray hair, if you went out theatrically and they started identifying you as gray, that it would work against you?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't. I feel very. I've always felt this. I feel that I will always work. I have
You will.
always. I
You
will
will. You're
always work.
talented.
And in it's just where you sometimes your body and your voice you has to all sort of catch up. And meld together.
Well,
That happens
and
for a lot of people when they turn 30. You have to kind of catch up to
Right.
your essence.
Right.
So, and I have to a little catching up, but I'm still working. Knock on wood. I just shot something Friday, so
Yay.
happy to
Good.
be working.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So
So,
yeah,
uh,
there's that.
what I was going to say is, what's the first bit of advice that you give to new actors?
Study. Be prepared. It's very competitive. It's probably more competitive than it's ever been.
Oh, there's no
Oh, for
question.
sure.
It's
sure.
it's just they
There's no
see more
question.
people. They've got their favorites. It's harder to get to know casting now. You need to be I always say you have one chance to make a first impression.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, that's so insightful.
but people just come to town and start submitting themselves and go up for auditions, and I'm like, you're not ready.
I had a long conversation with an actor who was successful and had been very successful. He said it took him 3 years to live down his first year
Yes.
because he got a bunch of
Sure,
auditions, went out and did all that stuff, and was not good.
Come on, you do it, right? I do
Yeah.
it. I have my little cheat sheet on LA Casting. I make notes about people.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, great look, can act.
Yeah.
Or other things.
I'd like to know what those are. No,
But,
it's
yeah.
so true that you have to, and a lot of people come from another market. They'll work in Texas or Atlanta or Chicago or something, and that's great. That's fantastic. But you're in LA now.
Well, everybody who's here was wherever they came from. They were the big man, big woman on campus.
Big fish, little
They were
pond.
the big
Yeah.
fish in the little pond, and you come here, and it's not a pond. It's not even an ocean. It's the whole of humanity.
Yeah.
In that respect, from an acting point of view, you're competing with the best of everybody from everywhere.
Yeah.
So training is the first thing.
Training is great, and don't just rely on your agent to get you jobs. You have to. I have always hustled on my
Right.
own.
And how do you hustle?
I just, now I'm on social media. I still do postcards. I drop by offices with little goodies. I will make some random pop-ins. I try to stay in touch, and if there's an office that I don't know, I try to get them to know who I am.
Okay. That's
Now, are you
smart.
talking both theatrically and commercially?
Both, yeah.
So have you switched around a lot of agents in your career, or have you stayed with?
I was with BBR for 38 years.
Wow.
I know. I just recently left.
Okay. And why did you leave?
That might be a taboo subject.
Okay, we don't have to talk about that. No, the reason I ask is some actors believe that their agent isn't working hard enough for them, so they keep moving around,
Yeah.
which it doesn't work that way.
No.
For me, it doesn't work that way. It's like if they're getting you in the door
Yeah.
and then you're not,
It's on you.
if
It's
you're not
totally
getting your
on you.
callbacks
Yeah,
or you're not
it's
or you're not
totally
booking,
on you.
right?
Yeah.
And another agent is not going to help you do that.
I
Well,
think.
they can't get you in any other door. You're getting in the doors.
Right.
What more do you want?
Yeah. That's right. They can't book the job for you.
Darn it.
No.
Well,
as a matter-
some people, we do know stories.
Yes, we do. I find a lot of times people come to LA and they want to just do television and film, and that's
Do you think that still holds true?
I know it does.
Really?
I do, and because I suggest, I can't obviously tell them what to do, but I suggest that they start with commercials, that they get an agent. I said it'll be a little bit easier to get an agent commercially. You
Yes.
can work non-union. Isn't that a gift? Till you get your SAG card, then you can start competing with the. But it's almost impossible to get a theatrical agent unless you are young, ethnically diverse, and really something special about you. If you're not union,
Or you have 100,000 followers.
yes.
Yeah.
Or more.
So
Yeah, no,
no
it's
one's
all
gonna
about
take
social
you on.
influencers now.
Yeah,
They're jumping the line.
yeah.
And I think that there's a weird pendulum that's swinging where the networks and the people that are casting things are swinging towards, we'll take the social influencer with the 300,000 followers.
It's going to
Oh,
backfire. It's
well-
not going to last.
Well, what I think has happened, though, is I think actors have gotten smart to it, and they might not have 300,000 followers, but they at least have some social media presence.
Yes, but that's not going to, having 1,500 followers or 15,000 followers is
Right.
not going to get them a job.
If you
No.
can't act, you can't act.
Right.
I mean,
No.
we've had this conversation about social media influencers booking jobs that we've worked on,
Right.
and it having
It's a
huge
nightmare.
fiasco.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
fiasco. It's not going to last.
No.
In the end, I believe talent and, personality win out.
What do you think about starting actors working as background?
Mm.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, if you need the money and you want to, here's my do it a couple of times, but really have your eyes open, see what's going on, understand the camera angles, what people are doing, et cetera, and use it as a way to get comfortable on the set. But I don't think that.
It's almost like a class on how to be on the
Yes,
set.
a class
Mhm.
getting
If you're
paid
looking at
for
it from that point of view,
Yeah.
it can be very
It can be very
beneficial.
helpful. You're not going to get. This is not going to be your big break.
Right, you're not going to get upgraded and
No.
be discovered as you're
No.
sitting there on the bleachers.
It's such a small, such a small percentage that get a line
Mhm.
or something.
I actually think it's good for actors, again, just a few times or however many times it takes them to learn,
right.
but to learn who all the people,
People are, yes,
because
exactly.
it's kind of confusing when you go
Yeah,
to a
the
set.
AD, the second AD,
The gaffers, the best
yeah,
boy,
exactly. Yeah.
what the heck is a best
I've
boy?
said
you
this
know?
many
Yeah.
times. I always, whenever I'm on set, I'm always sitting and trying to name everybody's title.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
observe everything and try and name. Okay, is that a best boy? Is that a key grip? Is
Right.
that a gaffer? Is that
If you're an actor and you're in front of the camera, you better know the cameraman's name
Yes.
Mhm.
and ask him, "Where are you shooting me? What's this shot?" Because no one tells you.
Mhm.
No one tells you this is a wide shot. They basically will tell you that it's a wide shot. That's about it. But the
Yeah,
rest
you'll
is
know
like
it's
you
the
don't know if it's
master.
3/4.
Yeah. Yeah.
3/4 over the. You don't know.
Okay,
Right.
so that's a good question. So you are walking into an audition, and there's dialogue
Mm-hmm.
and
Commercial. Yeah.
commercial,
Okay.
commercial, and they say action,
Mm-hmm.
and you have no idea what shot it is. Is it a long shot, a medium shot, a extreme close up? Do you ask the casting director?
It is one of the questions, and I have a whole one night. I hand out questions that are good questions for an actor to ask, and one of them is, "Where's my frame?" But you ask that before you start the slate.
Right.
Where's my frame?
Okay,
Right.
I
Just-
agree with
just-
that because it means so much.
It means everything, and it shows that you're obviously know something.
Mhm.
Well, that's the thing is that you're always trying to create within the frame. So
Mhm.
you've got to know what the frame is to
Mhm.
create within. It's one
Yeah,
thing
if
if
you've got a thing with your hand and it's you're doing
Yeah,
it
you're
all
doing it
down,
down
here,
here
and
and-
they're shooting you, it's not showing.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it's you've got to modify everything
Yeah.
to being the storytelling within
Yeah.
the
Or
frame.
if it's really tight and you're doing this, that's not going to work either.
Right. No, I like the people who inadvertently sway. when they're
Oh
talking.
yes,
Yeah.
I always tell them I'm getting seasick. I'm getting seasick over here.
Yeah.
I used to have to sit on my hands when I first started because I did a lot of copy when I first started, but it's like, you know,
flailing.
yeah, flailing.
Yeah.
I was a flailer. So I had to sit on my hands, and it was with Doyle Baker.
Oh,
Remember Baker
yes.
Nesbitt?
Oh,
yeah,
my
he was,
gosh.
it was a commercial class, and
Yeah.
he'd make me sit on, and then I couldn't talk. It's like,
I can't talk without my hands.
it was funny,
I
but
didn't
then
know
you
you were
learn.
Italian.
Yeah,
But then you
Italian,
learn,
yeah.
right?
I have people sit on their feet
Oh, really?
in class. Yeah.
So they don't
Mm-hmm.
move.
Yeah, because
Uh-huh.
they usually do like a little box step.
Isn't that, and what's interesting is we don't know we're doing
Nope.
these things in real life.
No.
Well, that's one of my pet peeves. So many times people say, "You're going to really like this. You're really going to enjoy this. This is going to be the best thing
Well,
for
the
you."
camera can't see you
Camera
do
can't
that.
see me. But what I'm doing is I'm shaking my head no, and so many people have that as an inadvertent tick,
Right.
and they don't know that they're doing it.
Right.
And especially when you're doing an endorsement for something, you're saying,
Right.
"This is the greatest thing ever," and you're going, "This is the greatest thing ever," and you're shaking your head no. It's you have to be so aware of your physicality.
Well, that's why on camera
Right.
of any kind of class is very important, and to watch it.
Mhm.
Watch it back so that you see what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Have you always been comfortable watching yourself?
No.
Are you comfortable watching yourself?
Now I don't care.
Now you don't. Now
Yeah.
you've gotten beyond it.
No, I don't care.
Because you can learn so much from watching yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I have not really pursued my acting in a long time, and somebody asked me to read for something a couple weeks ago, and I read for it, and it was one of the first times in probably a couple decades. I'm not joking. When I looked at it and thought, "Oh, well, I can kind of play this game." Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Because as actors, we also have our own neurotic behavior of
Yeah, in our head.
you know, that we're not that good or we can't do or it's not possible for us. And so it was really pretty affirming for me. It's like, oh, I can play the game,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And
It's-
not everybody can do that. And I don't understand people who can't watch themselves.
Oh.
I mean, I understand
love it.
not watching yourself, but there's a certain point where you have to watch yourself to improve,
Yes,
especially
right.
with
Of
self
course.
tapes.
Yes.
Especially
Well,
now with self tapes.
yeah.
I was taping a young girl, a teenage girl the other day, and she wouldn't watch herself. And so I had to now decide whether
Which
this was
tape,
the
yeah.
best she could do or
Right.
whether she could do better. But it's so much easier if you can watch yourself and remove yourself from that experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always say, look at yourself without watching yourself. And it's
Yeah,
sort of
look
semantic.
objectively.
What are you
Yeah.
projecting?
Yeah.
What is the client? I do this when I'm teaching about slating. It's like, what are they seeing? Are they seeing you're like, I don't know what I'm talking
Right.
about.
I don't know who
This
I
is my
am.
name.
Yeah, they can see the fear. I can always tell when someone doesn't like their name.
Right.
You can just tell.
I see people recess. They go back
Oh, yeah.
into their eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go forward. You have to go out to the camera.
So, talking about looking at yourself. So on set with commercial,
Mhm.
do you watch the playbacks if they offer?
At an audition?
No, on
at
set. On
set.
set.
Yeah, I will. I will. I'll look at it.
I
Well, you
try-
can pick up nuance.
Yeah,
I mean,
try
at
to-
that point, I feel like, hey, it's all in there. It's
You can do no wrong.
What I like
Yeah.
and what for me, I'm there just to be of service. Let me service the scene. Let me service the spot. Let me service the client, and do the best I can. Keep it fun and light, and keep my
Keep-
energy up.
Be
Keep it
professional.
real.
Keep it real.
It's a good title, actually.
Thank you.
So, when you slate for a commercial
Mhm.
and you're going in, you go in for so many different characters. Do you have a different slate?
I always say hello to Brad Pitt.
Oh,
So Brad Pitt's the one?
Brad Pitt's my
Yeah.
guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see it's
Yeah.
already
Oh,
changed.
look
You
at-
look at
God.
See,
everything's
look at the little
changed.
sparkle. See, that's a great for those watching. That was
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
example because your eyes completely changed.
No,
Have you met him?
Well, I just did a movie that he produced, and so I'm hoping that he'll be there at the screening or
I was actually in acting
something.
class with
Yeah.
him.
Look at her.
I know.
I know. Now I'm curious. Who was it before Brad Pitt?
Nobody.
No, come on.
It's always been Brad.
He's
For a
not.
long
You've
time.
been doing it longer than Brad Pitt.
What,
has.
Thelma-
Never
Never
changed.
Thelma
It still
and
works for
Louise?
me.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
And
but
thank God for what's the movie? Hollywood, the one he just did.
Once Upon a Time.
Once
in
Upon a
Hollywood.
Time in Hollywood. Thank God for that because it just rekindled that whole thing for me. Woo!
I like that. I always say, you have a secret, and
Yeah.
that kind of brings the sparkle. But I think
Yes.
that works really wonderfully.
Yeah.
See, my thing is always the person, place, or thing that lights you up in life.
Yeah.
Like I always talk to
absolutely.
my kids.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
and you. I'm
That's
sure
really
talk to
sweet.
you.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's
use Frankie, that's my son, for a lot of spots. I use him a lot because I talk to him all the time.
Okay, so that for those watching that don't know what we're talking about is when you're on an audition, they often will say, "Talk to the camera like they're your friend,
Yeah,
or
right.
like you know them,
Right.
or
Like
yada
you're
yada.
teaching them or
Yeah.
whatever it is
So
that
so
you're
you
doing.
speak to your son. So you actually have a real image.
Oh
of,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And you
because
talk to your kids
Yeah.
as well.
I slate to my if I have to think about it. I think it's funny that you still think it. So right before the camera rolls, are you thinking Brad Pitt?
absolutely.
Oh, that's fascinating because
That's so sweet.
a lot of times I feel comfortable enough. I've been doing it long enough, and I've been in the room so much because of my day gig that I can just be off the cuff, and I know that I'm supposed to be putting out there and saying, "Hey, you want to meet me?"
Mm-hmm.
So that was a friend of mine. He was getting called back on everything he was going in on. I asked him finally, I said, "What are you doing different?" He said, on his slate, the only thing he was thinking is, "You want to meet me."
Mm.
That was the only thought in his head.
Boy,
And he
it's
was-
powerful.
Yeah.
He was getting
Intention.
called back on everything. And now he was a good actor as well,
Mhm.
but it's that sort of intention
No, absolutely.
that is so key. So
No, I
elemental.
see fear in most people's eyes on the
Mhm.
slate, and
Well-
that's not how you want to first.
Either fear,
Sometimes they just look at the slate and they move on.
well,
Right.
yeah,
Oftentimes.
oftentimes.
Yeah. We were just talking about that.
Mhm.
Sometimes they look at the
Yeah,
thumbnails.
the thumbnails.
huh,
Yeah.
and they might not even press play. They might just pass you by.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one of the detriments of being on the computer. It's both a positive and
Right.
a detriment.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be when it was videotape, you had to at least watch
Watch
the
it,
videotape.
yeah.
You could fast forward the
Right.
videotape, but now they can just look at the thumbnails.
And
you
skip.
know, I can send a link. It'll have all the thumbnails in it. It'll have 90 minutes of audition time.
Right.
They can call me in 20 minutes and say there's nobody on the tape. You know, they
had that.
because they've looked at all the thumbnails. There's nobody that appeals to them.
Wow.
So that's what I always say too. I always think the first prerequisite is they either like your face or they don't.
Right.
They either like your face or you don't.
But it's also, that's a good comment because, you're standing, let's say there's three of us in a line,
Right.
and we don't know how quickly the camera's rolling. So you don't want to be with this dour face.
Right.
And then they go, okay, tell me your name. And then because that dour face may be that.
the shot.
the
yeah,
shot.
The
Yeah.
still.
So you
that
have to be careful
land
when
on.
you're in
Yeah.
the
Well,
room.
that's the
Okay.
other thing is I always say to people, when you're in front of the lights, you're on stage.
Yeah.
Nobody stands on stage like all slumped over.
Right. And then come to
and
life.
then-
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so many do.
So many,
So many
do.
do.
So many
Yeah.
people wait for you to say, and your name. Oh, hi, my.
Right.
Beforehand, you're lost in thought or whatever
Right.
it is. You're not preparing for
Right.
the experience of what's going on, and the experience is the same every time.
Yeah.
The process never changes.
Not really.
It never
No.
changes.
No.
Not much. You
Whether
always
it's
have
the-
to tell your name.
You always have to say your name. You always have to, present yourself and always be on stage in that respect.
So Judy,
Hmm.
one of my pet peeves as a casting director is you're out in the room, the waiting room. You
Yes.
go out there, you tell everything you know about the spot. This is the blocking. I often will go, okay, there's the camera. This is how we do it. Yada, yada, yada. You come into the room, slate your name. Okay, everybody ready? No, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh God.
That's how I feel.
Oh, God.
And it frustrates me. Ask me out there because now you're hanging up three people.
Mhm.
You're hanging up the session director. Maybe the clients are in the room too.
Well, that is the reason why you need to be in class because you can't be cavalier about this. It maybe back in the day there was some room for a rehearsal or prepping them before you put them on tape, but that is not happening anymore.
Not often, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, I don't think I've had a rehearsal in 7 years.
Wow. So we shoot the rehearsal is what
They
we do.
shoot the rehearsal.
Which is really the first take because there is no rehearsal. Once in a
Correct.
while we'll take it off.
It's
I mean,
fine.
once in a while I'll take it off.
I'm still old school. I'll rehearse you. I will shoot your rehearsal. If we get it, I always say, if we get it, great. If not, we're just going to do it again. And now it's so easy to take it off with the computer. It used to be impossible when you
Right.
ran tape. That's why you would rehearse people is because you didn't want to roll tape,
tape.
and have it not happen and then have to stop tape and then try and take it off.
I
So you would almost rehearse people too much.
No, I understand it.
You know?
And not tape one of those good ones.
Right.
I think it's because they're seeing more people. Their days are more packed. There are more actors to see, and they just don't have the time to, or they're going to be behind.
Well, so what's your advice for the actor then?
You need to know what you're doing. You have to be prepared. You're not out in the lobby talking. That's your work time. That's your prep
Right.
time.
So you're asking questions, casting directors out there saying, okay, this is what we're doing.
right.
And she doesn't say, do you have any questions? You go, I have a question.
Right.
So you can't be afraid of asking before
Absolutely,
you get
yeah,
into
ask
the
a
room.
question or come in and say, I heard your explanation. I still just wanted to know, do I move here on this line? That would be okay to do. But,
Okay.
be a pro. This is a job. You would not go into an interview for IBM and go, what do you guys do? What am I doing here? I'm not sure.
You're
I-
hitting all our pet peeves right now.
But I have seen
You can't see his
actors
face.
walk up to, like, I don't even know where a place that has several casting offices there, and walk in to some lobby person and go, "Hi, I'm here for the audition," and they're like, "Well, which one? I don't know. My agent sent me." Like,
See, this is the craziness. I could understand that
Yeah.
back in the day when you got a phone call and you had to write down all the information.
Right.
But now they
It's
text
printed.
it to you.
it's printed in your LA
It's
casting.
everything you need to know.
I
You
know.
need to read it. And
Yeah.
actors don't read. They don't prep. They don't take it seriously. I'm not saying all actors, because there are actors who do. You're an example of it. You read it top to bottom. You understand what it
Yes,
is, where it is, how it
absolutely.
is, who it is,
Yeah.
what I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be there, all of those things.
When it shoots,
Yes.
That's
do you
just
need a
the
passport?
that's just the basic that's just the basic.
Yeah, it's called being prepared.
Yeah, the fundamentals.
Yeah, no, I'm always a little surprised when because I'll coach some actors for commercials, theatrical as well, but commercials, and they'll come in and I'll say, "Who's casting?" Because that tells me something immediately. Who's
Sure.
casting? And they'll go, "Oh," and they have no idea. To me,
Right.
that's the first thing I want to know. Who's casting this?
Right.
Because then I know what casting director is, immediately.
There's
If
a
it's
feel,
Francine,
yeah.
it's probably funny. If it's Ross, might not be. I know instantly.
Right.
And
the
do
tone.
you coach your students? They come in with an audition,
Mhm.
and it's a product. Do you have them research that product?
Oh yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Because there's trends there. In my class, I think it was last week, we were watching all the Tide commercials where they're folding laundry. But it's very natural. Very natural dialogue, but they're all folding laundry. So we watched like 4 of them before we did.
And could anybody
Spot.
fold laundry and do the dialogue at the same time?
It was tough.
It's hard.
And they fold it very specifically.
Yeah. No. it
Well,
was
you have to
tough.
fold it properly. It's always a tell mostly in theatrical, where you see somebody not really packing a suitcase, not really cooking,
Right.
It
not
drives me
really
crazy.
doing any of those things, and they're doing other dialogue. Whereas if acting is an imitation of life,
Right.
in life you would be packing and cooking
Right.
and happen to be talking.
Right.
And as actors, we think we're talking and happen to be doing the other thing. We,
Yeah.
we get it messed
Yeah,
up.
we
The
do.
action really should come first.
Yes.
I love the story about Viggo Mortensen. He was in, I think it was Red October,
Oh yeah.
and there's a scene where he's ironing his shirt. He was I don't know what he was, whatever.
Officer.
Yeah, officer.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sergeant. I was going to
And
say.
the shirt was not in the scene, but he brought it in with the ironing board and the iron to iron when he's doing the scene.
Yeah.
And if you watch him, he was meticulous about the ironing because his character is meticulous about what he wears.
Right.
I loved it. I thought there's a great example right there of really being in the moment.
No, absolutely.
Well, being focused on what the character would truly be focused on.
Yeah.
And we're never in our lives. We're never focused on our dialogue.
No.
No.
We're always focused on our doing of what it is that we're in the middle of doing.
And
whether
the
it
other
be-
person.
and the other person, right? And how you're going to play what you're going to say.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing is random movement.
Uh-huh.
So you're in a scene. You know about this, don't you?
Like unmotivated gesturing.
yes.
Yes.
That's another thing that drives me cuckoo in an
Uh-huh.
audition. Where, why did you move?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Why did you just do that? Or
Right.
why didn't you do something when you're,
Right.
there are
Oh
moments.
yeah. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Go.
Exit stage left.
You just said you're gonna go. Go. And people. I get
Yeah,
that all the time.
yeah.
Is that okay? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
leave. So what do you think about putting a button on?
Oh, I'm the button queen.
Okay.
Uh,
So talk to us about
my
the button.
Well,
slogan.
wait, before we get to button,
Yeah.
though, what's your take on when there is dialogue?
Mhm.
What's your advice on the dialogue? Yeah, are you a make it your own kind of person, or are you a
No, I still feel that I should be able to do the copy as written at least once. I should be able to do that.
at
That
least one
should-
time?
That should be one of my takes. And I feel also that I should have the body of the scene really good, memorized. I should have it in me,
Right,
living inside me.
right.
Now I do launch. I call it a launch, a little something before I speak. It might be, dinner's ready or some, however it
Fits in.
fits in. But I always button.
Yeah, well, that's
So
your humor.
explain to those watching what a button is.
The button is the next thing that you would say after the last scripted line, and really the next thing that you would say. It's not a funny thing, or it's the most I think amusing buttons are literally the next thing that you would say, because it's not expected.
Right.
It's not expected, but it is expected. It's almost like they're waiting for it, and then when it comes out, it's like, oh, So yeah,
And a
I-
button often will get that little laugh
Oh,
from the clients that are sitting behind.
absolutely, absolutely. I did a DirecTV spot. I think it just stopped running, where my son's on the sofa, and it was very sort of straightforward. I can't afford that. It's free, okay, free. When are you going to hook me up? He hooks it up for me, and then I'm like, when are you going to hook me up with grandkids? Right. So there was in the audition, I think I read with 2 different guys. So, and I think we did 4 takes with each. So that was 8 different buttons, and the buttons have to be different every
I
time.
was just going to say you
Yeah.
can't do the same twice.
No, you can't repeat. Otherwise, then you're just like,
Then it's
well, that's
scripted.
that's all she has.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So 8 different buttons, 8 different launches, and maybe some little, I call them utters and mutters in the middle, where I'm reacting vocally to what he's saying, 8 different times. And one of the times one of the gals in the back said, just stick to the script. So I gave exactly the lines in the script, but I still buttoned.
Well, the button they can also cut out
Oh, yeah,
if they're
absolutely.
editing at the end
But
of
I
the
just
day.
wanted to keep the life going. But I booked that job. And the guy that got it was also very savvy with improv. And we got to the set, and we were like ready to really,
No.
here's all my stuff.
Shakespeare.
Stick to the script.
Yeah, and they said, we have no time for any ad-libbing.
Right.
And we were like, oh,
Darn it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it got us the job.
Well, I have this is going back 20 years when I was still pursuing acting. I went in on an audition, and there was no script. It was just improv. And you improv for 3 or 4 minutes about this big
Those
thing.
were the fun days, though.
Well,
right?
but it became, and then on callback, you had to do it a couple times. It was tortuous and literally
Say that again.
torturous.
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 He did do something.
Yeah, he did do
Yeah.
something.
I just
You
want to see if
did.
you're listening.
We'll hear it in playback.
I got to the set. The director never talked to me. There was a shot and somebody in the foreground, and I was way in the background. But what I always say is they wanted to know that you can improvise so that they didn't have to talk to you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They wanted to know that you knew what you were doing and knew how to handle yourself. And it goes back to being the idea of professionalism and being able to
Absolutely.
demonstrate in everything that you're doing in the room is your professional attitude, skills, and abilities.
Yes.
In being professional, attitude, skills, and abilities.
Yes.
I'm here to tell you we have 1 minute left.
Oh, wow.
my
okay.
gosh.
Wow,
Oh,
that
that's
went fast.
Very quick.
So what else do you want to talk about?
Oh, wow. I don't know.
How important improv is.
Oh, well, that's an interesting topic, I think, because, I
That
think it
might
was
be another
last
show.
year. Yeah. Last year, SAG removed the.
You can make it your own. They didn't remove that you can ad lib. They said that you're now allowed to make it your own.
No, the improving, in other words, you're not going to get paid. If you
Well-
improvise, you're not going to get paid. They removed that.
If they use it. if the,
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's a free for all. It's the actors
Which
offering
is
up
kind
all
of
their.
sad though.
No, it's very sad. I mean, I only got paid one time to
Did
improvise.
you really?
One time, yes.
Wow.
And believe me, I've
On just an audition.
yeah, and I've
Yeah.
given a lot of material out there.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of anybody actually getting paid on that.
I did
that
one time.
Yeah,
clause.
when my mom cast, they used to pay for.
Well,
Yeah.
that
I mean,
was
it
back in the beginning. That's why it started, because they would
Mhm.
have Elaine May and Mike Nichols come
Right,
in,
come
improvise
in.
their thing. They'd
Yeah.
write the whole thing down,
Yeah.
and that was
and
their
say
act.
thank you very much.
Yeah, and then they go get somebody to cast to do what they improved.
Yeah.
So back when your mom was casting, it was much more. There was
It was
fewer.
clear cut.
It was
too.
more clear cut, and there was fewer things going on. Nowadays, it's more like the Wild West.
I think it's the best training for being able to think on your feet, to be able to throw a little something in, to be able to accept the imaginary circumstances as being real. I think it's really great training,
And do you have
especially for
improv
commercials.
classes in your?
We
Okay,
do.
great.
Paul
Paul
Hungerford.
Hungerford,
Yeah,
I
okay.
highly recommend him as
Yeah,
well.
Great.
He's great
He is.
Cool.
and kind.
Kind is good.
Well, I don't know how kind.
No, he's kind.
Oh,
He's kind.
all
He
right.
loves improv. You know, every teacher at Keep It Real is passionate about what they do.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love passion.
Yeah.
Everybody say good night.
Oh,
Good night.
I
Thank
don't
you very
wanna
much.
go. This
I
was
know
too
this
much
was so much
fun.
fun.
Thank
It
you,
was like
Judy.
old home week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catch up.
Okay.
All right.
Say good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. It's a wrap.
Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.